In this video podcast series, Train of Thought, Barry takes a deep dive into the subject of digital disruption.
Okay, so I'm absolutely delighted today to be welcoming a returning guest, Paul Ince, CEO of LikeMind Media. So, Paul, good to see you again. And for
Good to see you,
those
Barry.
good to see you. And for those that didn't watch or haven't watched episode 3, please do. And can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Paul Ince. I'm a marketing consultant and strategist. I specialize in understanding the customer journey that businesses, customers and clients go on, and then producing marketing strategies that help people create the better content that generates leads.
Perfect, brilliant, good stuff. And like I say, if people do go back to episode 3, you go into quite a bit of depth about some really clever stuff you've been doing. So today we're going to talk about vanity metrics in marketing. So Paul, I'm keen to know, what is your interpretation of that?
Well, I think the term vanity metrics has been around for a long time, certainly as long as I've been in marketing, which is ages. And the way I've always seen it is that it's a bit of a term to describe those metrics that look impressive, but probably, I wouldn't say don't mean anything, but probably don't mean as much as you think that they do.
Certainly. And you're kind of talking about things, I guess, like when people report impressions or likes and that kind of stuff without digging deeper into more data. That's my kind of thought on it. But why, Paul, do you think it is that vanity metrics have become so embedded in marketing culture?
Okay, well, here's where I'm going to be. I don't think it's controversial, but I'm not sure vanity metrics have become embedded in marketing culture as such. I mean, I hear the term bandied around a lot, and I think they are a thing. I'm not saying that they're not a thing. I think educated marketers know which are the metrics that really matter, and those are the ones that drive things forward. Marketers know what they're being assessed against, and let's be real, marketing professionals are judged on performance.
Yeah.
People can say, oh, the creative is fantastic and isn't that innovative, but if it doesn't do anything, then that gets cut pretty quickly. So I think marketers understand that, and they understand the metrics that really matter. I think it's two types of people that talk about vanity metrics. The first one are marketers, perhaps with less experience, who might focus on the wrong metric because of their experience, and perhaps they haven't quite grasped yet which ones matter and which ones don't. And I'm not trying to be negative about that, because we've all got to go on a learning journey with understanding how these things work. But I think it's usually actually senior leadership within a business that fixate on the wrong metrics. They don't call them vanity metrics, because as far as they're concerned, they're metrics that are valid from their perspective. But I think it's usually senior leaders within a business or an organization that, like I say, fixate on the wrong metrics, and they ask marketers to build strategies around them. So I'm really thinking about things like follower counts is the one that I see a lot of. I see a lot of senior leaders in businesses that I work with, or when I'm working with, when I'm acting as a mentor to other marketers, when they're talking to me about, how my boss wants me to grow our following to 10,000 on Instagram, right? 10,000 on Instagram is like seemingly like the baseline that people want. and they're being asked to do that because there's a perception by the senior leader that that's important, because maybe it looks impressive. They just arbitrarily want to get to that point, without being able to articulate why that is, or what that does, or how that contributes to the business going forward. And the danger I see for marketers is, if you don't push back on things like that and explain why that's not really the metric to go for, then you can start to build strategies that don't help the business. So, example, when it comes to things like followers, well, you can buy followers online. They're not real. They're bots, or they're fake, or whatever. But you can buy them online if you know where to get them from. It's not even that expensive. So
Yeah.
I can totally achieve, if a company says to me, we want 20,000 followers on Instagram. Okay, well, if that is what I'm going to be judged on, if that is what is going to get us the fee, well, then buying these followers online is just a cost of sale.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's a nonsense, and I would never do it for ethical reasons. I would push back and say, well, it's the wrong metric. But this is the challenge, really, is that when you're being asked to do something like that, to just get us more followers, you have to think, well, what is the purpose? If it's just that it looks great, well, okay, well, then we can achieve it in lots of different ways. Now,
it's never going to convert or turn into a sale on a customer.
Exactly. I mean, it's not to say that having a large number of followers isn't impressive. We know that there's a certain amount of sort of following, like sheep. If you see an account that's got a lot of followers, that will give you a signal that perhaps that's a good account and that it's worth following them also, and you might get some organic growth as a result of having that. So it's not that followers is not a metric that you should look at. It's just that what does the following do? If it doesn't then convert into sales, then it's not really doing anything. And that's what I would determine a vanity metric to be.
Yeah, certainly. And something that I'm sure you've heard a lot over the years, Paul, is people are very quick to say, I want to be on the first page of Google, without really knowing what that means. And you've got to dig deeper. And it's like, okay, for what search query? Because to be blunt, that people aren't going to search your brand name if you're not a great big well-known brand. They're going to search very specific criteria. And then if you get on the first page for that search query, then you expect to see website traffic go up, but then you expect to see online inquiries go up, and then you expect to see sales conversion go up. So it's actually digging a lot deeper, isn't it, than just, I want to be this surface kind of level thing. It's about driving people deeper into understanding what exactly it is that they need and how that's going to grow sales and business. And I think we'll go into leadership in a bit, actually. But we're not saying here, are we, Paul, that vanity metrics are always bad? They do have a place in certain contexts, don't they?
I mean, it's the term. I mean, the term vanity is quite negative. So if something is deemed to be a vanity metric, the suggestion is that it's not a metric worth looking at, which I think is wrong, because the metric exists for a reason. Like I say, if we were to look at, if we take the page one on Google, for example, I mean, there's you need a fundamental understanding of how Google works today. But what appears on page one for you will be different to what appears on page one for me. So that immediately says what's the point of that. Also, we know now that Google will produce the AI overview, and people aren't necessarily clicking to the website because the information is being given to them. So how do you use that change in behavior to generate that inquiry or visit that website or try and get the conversion? Like I say, I think things like follower counts do give you a sense of what other people might think about the account. If somebody is high up on Google search results, even if it's just for you as an individual, it's a sign that perhaps the website can be trusted, that it performs quite well. it would be similar to what is the brand recall on a brand that's put an advert in the middle of Coronation Street. These are all still good metrics, but instead of just focusing on a single metric, what we have to do, I think, as marketers, is paint the broader picture
Yeah.
of what is going on, and where do we see the performance rise and fall. If we can generate lots of traffic to the website, but there's no conversions, people aren't clicking the contact us form button or picking up the phone or whatever, there's a problem there between the traffic that's being driven and the conversion. Now, is it the content on the website? So is the promise being made and then not being delivered on the website, or is the marketing to get people to the website the wrong message? There's lots of things that could potentially go wrong. It could be, of course, that you're generating lots of leads and inquiries in marketing for your sales team to follow up, and then they follow them up and they say, well, these are just the wrong type of leads. So you might be very successful at marketing in terms of generating traffic, generating impressions, generating inquiry forms. But if they don't match the ICP, or they are in the wrong territory or something like that, then it's pretty pointless. Something is wrong. So again, you have to look at the whole thing in its entirety, I think, to paint the picture of what's happening.
Definitely, and it's this great big holistic picture, isn't it? There's not just one data point or one metric to measure. There's a whole thing going on there. And I kind of wonder, Paul, do you think maybe intentionally some marketing people may just chase the vague numbers, because when it comes down to it, they don't want to be held accountable for things like lead conversions or lead generation and sales conversions?
Yeah, I mean, if you're being asked to self-report, you're going to paint the rosiest of pictures, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes teams will report the numbers that the senior leadership ask for, even though they know they're not the ones to go for, as we said. And I do think that teams need to help leaders understand which are the metrics to measure, and importantly, why. They have to contribute to a packet of information that the leadership can understand, and how that works towards the organization's success. So, we really have to go right back to what is the overall objective of the organization? What are they trying to do? I mean, that could be generate more sales. It could be generate more sales in a certain territory. It could be to do a product launch. It could be to increase brand awareness. We have to look at what's the organization trying to do. And then marketing has to work towards those goals, and they have to prove that they've been able to contribute to those goals. And I think that marketing people have to work closely with the C-suite or the senior leaders to understand what that is, and to push back on those metrics that aren't really going to help them understand what that is. A good example would be, we work with a company that is a food distribution company. They want to sell certain products at certain times. So really, the best marketing reporting is going to be on individual product sales and how that tracked back to something like, this product was featured in this campaign here, and these clicks generated these visits to the website, which converted this many times. And therefore, when you go right back to the source of the marketing, this particular campaign worked, or this aspect of the campaign worked, or this particular ad worked better than this other ad. And what does that mean? It means that the next campaign we should do this. So marketing people should be used to telling stories, because that's what a lot of marketing is. They also need to tell the story of what's been happening to the people that take the decisions. And the outcome of that, honestly, is a more positive feeling towards the marketing department, possibly more budget allocated for the next campaign. It is in marketers' interests to get the story and be honest as well. If it's not landed or it's not quite worked, what do we learn from that? What does that mean for the next campaign? It's important for marketers to tell the story to the people that control the purse strings and the budget going forward, because that's how you improve.
And it's being honest, isn't it? If you measure it all the way through, and if something hasn't worked or gone quite the way you want, well, you review that and you say, well, okay, we either tweak it or we ditch it because we'll focus on this because this has worked. And it's almost like A/B testing, isn't it? And I think the beauty
Yeah.
of everything today is everything's measurable, pretty much. You know, everything digital, you can trace every single bit of it.
Pretty much. I mean, I will say that there are some things that I think we still struggle to track. We live in a world where we all have multiple devices. Well, I say we don't all have multiple devices, but lots of people have multiple devices. So if you are seeing something on your phone on social media and then you go onto your laptop and you search for it, you know, it's really hard for anyone to make the connection that actually the source is not Google search, but is in fact LinkedIn or whatever it is. You know, so some of it is just not trackable. Again, another reason to sort of tell the full story and not not take massive decisions on one particular factor.
Yeah, definitely. And so to kind of touch on leadership here, firstly, why do you think that they quite often succumb to vanity metrics, leaders, directors, HR, management? And also, you've kind of highlighted here, there is a genuine need, isn't there, to train the directors as to know what it is that they should be measuring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people focus on certain things. I think it probably is just down to a lack of knowledge. I do
Mm,
notice in my world um, where we're working with a business that maybe the MD or CEO came from marketing or has some kind of
yeah,
experience in that area. It is a lot easier to get what you need in terms of resources and budgets because they understand marketing. It's that whole thing of, is marketing an investment or is it a cost?
mm,
Those people who see it as a cost are looking at the budget, the numbers, the spend, the return. Those people who see it as an investment, I think, are much more likely to look at things in for the long game and go, well, look, this is not an immediate quick fix.
yeah,
And so it's more about things like brand building and world building and things like that.
mm,
So I think it probably does just come from a lack of understanding. But also I think it's almost a cultural thing as well, because we live in at a time when a lot of people have got social media. There, it's always on. It's the quick win, the quick
mm,
hit. How do we actually, what do we need? And if that person, that's their experience, then that might be what they then ask for.
yeah. So possibly digital natives, maybe, and and do you think as well possibly leaders see themselves all over social media or their brand, and they think, wow, that's it, we're out there, but actually there's a much deeper data-driven story to think about, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, some people are just happy with an ad performing well, or like we say, certain amount of follower growth per
Mm,
month. If that's what they want and that can be delivered, then people are happy with that. However, what I would say, I don't think I've yet met uh, a really senior member of a business that hasn't gone, well, what does it actually do for us?
yeah.
What are the sales numbers? I
Mm,
think you don't get to that position without thinking about sales.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So this is something that everyone's talking about at the minute. How do you see AI and automation totally radicalizing the marketing profession? And also, will it hinder or aid meaningful measurement and reporting?
Um, I think the jury's out on that. I think it depends on who
Yeah.
you speak to. I think people are either in they've gone in with both feet for AI and are using it for absolutely everything. Whether that's generative AI for creating the copy or the image, or whether they're using it to do research analytics, or maybe they're doing the just the brainstorming through it. I
Mm,
think everyone a lot of marketers are at different stages with that in terms of what they think, what they see. My observation is that you can almost see people have this epiphany of what is possible all of a sudden. Like, I've definitely seen people who are sort of, just going about their usual marketing performance, and then suddenly they find an app that they go, oh my god, this is absolutely amazing, everybody should use this, it's helped me create 1 million LinkedIn posts without me having to think about it. I think a lot of marketers are under pressure for productivity, so they're under pressure to produce more, so more copy, more posts, more videos, whatever that is. I mean, take videos, for example. Videos take a lot longer to produce than, say, a text post on LinkedIn or a bit of email copy. So, but I think our the time it takes is lengthened, but the demands are still the same. So instead of somebody saying, well, I want 10 posts a week, and that was just on Twitter 20 years ago, and it's just 140 characters, someone might say, well, I want 10 posts a week, but they want them all to be video. Well, you can't do that in the same amount of time. So I think what's happened is, rather than people pushing back and saying, well, it's just not possible to do 10 good videos, people have found the tools like generative AI to produce it for them so they can keep their productivity up. And I think what needs to have happened, which sadly doesn't seem to be the case, is that there should be the pushback. There should be the pushback to say, well, we can use tools like generative AI to create these videos, but if you look at them, they look a bit AI. I'm not sure that the audience is going to, that's going to resonate with the audience very well. And so the performance might be worse. And a really good example of that, which if you'll allow me to use this as an example, are AI generated posters, which seem to be like everywhere at the moment. Every pub is using ChatGPT to create a poster for their forthcoming barbecue weekend or something like that. And they all look the same, and they all have the same structure. And I defy anyone to tell me that a pub would be thinking about what icons their poster should have in it before they put it in ChatGPT. So of course they all end up looking fairly similar, and then the accusation is like, this is rubbish, and no one's looking at it. Now, when you dive into this a bit deeper, when things do look the same, people tend to move past. So perhaps it's not doing them any favors. However, compared to what they were able to do before themselves, it's 1 million times better. So, who are we to say that a pub owner should not have access to do something like that, and it probably will perform better than the Microsoft Paint job that they did before. So there's a good use of the technology for the democratization of marketing, effectively, by them being able to do it. Now, marketers don't like that, or creatives don't like that, because it's potentially taking them out of a job. But I'm not sure that many pubs employ graphic designers to create a poster every time that they want one. So there's that. But going back to the idea that some people are all in or not, there are those camps there. I think there's obviously lots of different tools that use the term AI. Whether they're actually AI or not is debatable. So sometimes what is pitched as AI is actually just a technological feature.
Yeah.
So a good example of that, right, is like Grammarly, or a tool that helps you correct your grammar. Is it AI? Is it AI, or is it just machine learning, and it's just looking at a series of rules and going, that doesn't meet the rule, right? That to me is, they can call it AI, people can refer to it as AI, but it's not really AI.
It's not your deep learning, deep dive, massively trained generative AI, is it? I guess, but
no, I mean things like email Sorry, do go ahead.
AI has been with us for a long time in our smartphones, and if you're looking at predictive text, and there's an element of AI in there.
Yeah, like it has been around. I did a project 10 years ago that was machine learning based, and we would
Mm.
call that AI now, I suppose. So it's been around before, and I know in episode 3 we did sort of touch on some of this, but um, I think I'm going to give you a good example of where I think AI can be really useful for marketers, and that is in analytics and
Yeah,
understanding what data is telling you. So we did a big piece of research recently on how B2B buyers make decisions, and when you've got over 700 responses and some of those questions are open answers, it's an effort to go and look at each one of those and try and work out how to group answers and responses and things like
yeah,
that. We were very clear that we used AI to do that analysis, to put the data set into a tool and gone, tell us what this is actually telling us, pull out like the words, the phrases, the sentiment, some of the numbers,
mm,
and that helps. And I think if you were to look at something like this, is a thing that I do like about, say, Google Analytics. Right now on Google Analytics, which is a tool that I think most marketers don't really understand in full. I certainly don't understand it in full. I know what I know. I know what I need to look at. But
yeah,
what Google Analytics will do these days is will give you the what does this mean? So I looked
yeah,
at one for a client the other day, and it said, "Oh, there's been a drop in traffic from India on the 19th of July."
yeah,
Um, and there are no significant Google updates at this time to suggest that was the cause of that drop off, right? So you can say, oh, okay, I can take that information, I can go to the leadership and say, look, there's a significant drop off from India here. We're just having a look at why that is, or maybe you would then go and investigate why that is. But I think tools like that can be helpful in you understanding what is this data showing me, and what should I do next? The other thing that I think it is helpful for is, I guess, because so many people like throw data at these tools, people are just giving them data which perhaps they really shouldn't, because it's
mm,
commercially
mm,
sensitive data, but still they do. So maybe take advantage of that. Is by going and asking LLMs or other tools, here's what I'm doing. How does that compare with what you know from other sources? Or where's the
mm,
benchmark? Or what's the industry standard here? And benchmarking is quite a good thing that you can use these tools for. If you were to say, here's my email open rate numbers across these different campaigns. Here's the data set of who I'm sending it to. Give me an analysis of open rates by sector, and then compare that with what you know is the benchmark
yeah,
in those sectors, and tell me whether or not I'm better or worse. Put that in a chart so I can just present that to my board, and even say to it, what do you think that we should do differently? And
mm,
you can get some useful information from that. I would be quite wary of then taking action just based on what an AI told me,
yeah,
but I do think it can give you some helpful information that can contribute to your decision making.
definitely. And actually, the AI feature in analytics, Google Analytics J4, that's really quite good, isn't it? You can basically ask it, tell it what report you want, and it goes off and does that for you.
Yeah, and again, that comes down to, what does your senior team want you to report on?
Mm,
What's important to them from the website perspective? Can you then go and ask it to give you what it is that you want? I think the next steps to that is, can it present the information in a way that's easily understood by the people? If Google Analytics can't do that, then there's plenty of other tools. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan of Adobe Acrobat,
yeah,
and if you can get something in a PDF, it can create the presentation and the slides to be able to present it.
yeah, perfect. And actually, Paul, that I'm keen to know, what does the marketing toolbox look like for Paul Ince?
What does it look like? Okay. So if I had to choose one, I would choose Claude
Yeah,
on a paid plan, because I need things to be ring fenced and private. I don't want I don't want commercially sensitive information going outside of that. We also use share the Microsoft stack, so Copilot kind of is ring fenced in your environment. So
Yeah.
I would only want to use things that are ring fenced. I'm certainly not putting in commercially sensitive information to anything that is not. So Claude would be my favorite. I think when it comes to finding out what's on the internet, I do like Perplexity. So asking Perplexity to give you like a summary of like the brand positioning, I found that to be quite decent. And very, very, very fast as well. Don't want to use ChatGPT at all. Don't like OpenAI as a company. Don't want to do that. Similarly, Grok, don't want anything to do with them.
No.
So Claude would be primary. Perplexity, sure. Adobe Acrobat, something specifically called PDF Spaces is fantastic. If you've got a PDF and you upload it to a PDF space, you can then interrogate that PDF. It can produce an audio summary of it. Very, very helpful for contribution and stuff like that. What else would I use that would have AI elements? I mean, because I use tools like the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, there are parts of that which are generative AI. I would use things like remove the socket from the image because I didn't notice it when I took the photo. I would do that. I'm not changing somebody's face, someone's appearance, changing the product. I'm not really doing that at all. I'm not creating videos of food that doesn't exist, or me and generative AI. For me, I don't want generative AI to write because I think I'm a better writer. I don't want it to create video because I can do that. Like anything where I've got the skill, I don't want it to do. And the key thing for me is trust. Like, what is the audience going to trust? Does the audience think this is AI? Because even if it's not AI and they think it's AI, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is liking AI. So if it looks a bit too fake, a bit too polished these days, it's a bit it can not get quite the reaction that you want. And one thing that I've noticed, actually having sort of like kids that are in their mid to late teens, is they really don't like AI.
No,
they don't like it. They understand its use and the power that it can have, but if something looks like AI, they are completely switched off. So I think businesses need to be a bit careful that they're not accidentally putting off potential sales because of the AI that's been used. One final thing that I just want to point out on tools and tool stack, because I think there are so many tools that talk about AI and that have AI feature and pitch themselves on their AI-ness. I think it's really easy to go, oh, this looks good. I'll download this app and I'll start using this app without thinking about who owns the app, what data are they taking, what are they using it for. And there was a tool that I looked at, which is one of these sort of like transcription tools. So you talk, and the idea was that it would take all the ums and ahs and just do it much better. And I needed to use it for a specific thing. I was a bit behind on something, and I was like, oh, maybe this will help me out if I just talk about what I'm thinking about, and can it like produce what I need. And so I downloaded it and thought I'll just play around with something that's safe, do something that's nothing to do with a client. And then I was like, okay, where is this information going? And I looked at the terms. What I actually did was so another thing that AI is quite good for, not that I want to replace a lawyer, but if you get, say, like some terms and conditions and put it through an AI tool like Claude or whatever, and say, go through this, give me the summary, and highlight the things that are sort of like red flags or things to question. So I did that and said, look for like, where is the data being held? Can it be used to train others? Where's my voice going? Because I'm speaking, so it's got to store my voice somewhere. I don't really want to be impersonated. And it basically came back and said, a bit of a red flag here. It's only based in the US. All the data's in the US. They do save your voice. They don't say they won't use it to train AI. And then I decided I just didn't want to use it. So I think if you're going to use any tools, they all have names like Blueberry.ai, or like they all have cute names, but you don't actually know anything about the company. It could be anyone. So I think whatever tools you see out there, it is always worth investigating who it is, where they're from, where the data goes, and think about whether or not there are restrictions on where you can have the data. I've got clients that the data can only be in the UK because it's based in forensics or the military or something like that. So like have a look and see who you're providing data for before you just give data away.
Well, finally, a closing question for you. And what advice do you have for young people looking to enter the marketing profession?
There's a lot of talk about content creation at the moment, specifically the importance of creating personal brands, whether that's you as a marketer or the personal brands of leaders. And I think someone like Catherine Turner at Marks and Spencer's is a great example, because she is someone who is the product director of food, and she's absolutely gone viral on TikTok and Instagram for talking about the latest food products that they're bringing to market. And it is a really good example of how to use a member of your staff for content creation. But whilst you need to understand content creation because it is part of marketing, you don't necessarily have to be able to create it yourself. You can get other people to do it. I think you need to have the ideas, really. I think young people should be encouraged to say what interests them and bring what they have learned before they enter the working world, because that modernizes people within marketing, and those new ideas need to come to the fore. But I would also say for younger members of the marketing world, learn from more experienced people. You don't know what you don't know. Ask questions. What I find frustrating sometimes when I'm working with younger people in more junior roles, typically, is there's a sort of like, yes, yeah, no problem, I can do that, and then there's no questions. People like being asked questions. Asking questions is a great way to start a conversation and to learn and to stay on plan. So I would say ask questions. I'd also say find yourself a mentor from who you can learn, someone that you respect. Maybe it's within the organization, maybe it's outside of that, but I think having a mentor to help develop their thinking is a good idea. And then finally, get a therapist would be my advice, because there's plenty of moments in marketing that require it. So
Okay, good advice. I really like that. I mean, from my point of view, and I'm sure for you as well, I am totally open to being a mentor at any time. If anybody, or especially a younger person, has got lots of questions, I would love it for them to fire away, ask me as many questions as they like, because, there's nothing more rewarding, is there, than giving your wisdom and sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, and I've got a mentor still. He's in his late 70s now, but I find that so very helpful. And I like you, I've reached a point where I'm very happy to repay that. So I'm happy to share my wisdom and give an alternative perspective.
Yeah, brilliant, good stuff. So, Paul, thank you once again for your time today. Thank you for the thoughts that you've shared. Just remind people where they can find you online.
So I'm known as BizPaul everywhere. So you can either look me up as BizPaul on LinkedIn, you'll find me, or Instagram or TikTok, or anywhere really. That's kind of become my sort of personal brand, strangely. But yeah, look me up there, or look me up at LikeMind Media, and you'll find the company there and ways in which to reach out and contact me there.
Brilliant. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.